Whispers in the Well is now out, and you may have picked up one of these brand new player decks from Ravensburger. Are you playing it and want to up your game? Let's have a look at this deck and improve it on this episode of XMarksTheLore. Howdy hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Experto and I love talking about Lorcana so that you don't have to. Well, I guess you can. You just go into the comments instead and tell me all about it. Or hit me up on any of my other socials down below, especially the Discord server, where we have a bunch more explosive action coming your way. But this video specifically is brought to you by Ravensburger, that were kind enough to send me a copy of both of the brand new player decks for Whispers in the Well. Hence why in this episode and the next episode of XMarksTheLore, we're going to be covering these decks and I'm going to be giving you some advice as to how you can take these bad boys and turn them into some potentially competitive decks, at least with my own opinions. Now, if I personally say this deck in particular with Judy Hopps and Robin Hood is possibly one of the better player decks I have seen in recent times. It's got a great list with some great cards, so let's dive straight into the list. So as you can see over here, I've imported the list over into dreamborn.inc so we can break it down and you can have a proper good look at it. As you can see, it's very 2 to 3 drop heavy, but it's a mid-range focus deck with a focus on detectives, because detectives have had a big boost from Whispers in the Well. We have a nice collection of different cards here with the go-to game plan of being more of a controlled detective-centric deck. The thing I really like about the deck as well is that on your top end, you do guarantee one copy of the new rare Judy Hopps, the lead detective, that gives your other detective characters alert and resist +2. And you also have one copy of the new Shift Nick Wild that will give, during your turn, whenever one of your detective characters banishes another character in a challenge, you draw a card. Very, very handy stuff, and this is also combined with Detective's Badge, which is the 1-cost inkable Sapphire item with Exert and Pay 1, chosen character gains resist +1, and the Detective classification until the end of your next turn. So that can help your non-detectives combine with the detective tech to make this deck work very well straight out of the box. Like I said, I think this is one of the best boxed player decks we've seen in a very good time, with a very competent list with a straightforward game plan. Now, as much as I like the list is only as good as how it plays. So now that we've seen it, let's dive in with the game and show you how it pans out. So as per usual, we'll be doing these deck tests where we test the deck against itself over on Inktable, just to see how it all goes, so you can see plays that the AI may make, but I may forget on. As for our starting line, we got some really nice 1-drop options here. We have Robot Queen, we have our 1-drop Nick, which is fantastic with a Shift Nick, but one of the best cards we want to definitely have in our hands is this Judy Hopps Uncovering Clues, because when we play and whenever she quests, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you can reveal a detective character, put it into your hand, and the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. This Judy Hopps is fantastic for what we want to do. I think anything over Judy is a little bit too high. So let's get rid of Donald for now, get rid of Scuttle for now. Maybe keep the 3-drop Judy, do we want to? I mean, when you play a character, you may play 1, banish this item, deal 2. Or we could end up using Judy to put it into our Inkwell for a little bit of ramp. I think we actually go that route instead. So we'll keep Nick, we'll keep Robot Queen, we'll keep these 2 Judys, and we'll also keep Black Heron. Mulligan 2, draw into the Pluto that gives us back our items and a Scuttle. That's absolutely fine. Scuttle will probably go into our Inkwell first turn. And speaking of first turn, our opponent didn't even have a play. So we're going to ink the Scuttle. And I think to start us off, because our opponent didn't even have a 1-drop, we actually start off with a Robot Queen, because we can threaten with the Queen. We can either use her for ramp on turn 3, or we can use her whenever we want to deal 2 damage to a chosen opposing character. If it's anything we're really worried about, like Pluto for example, not too worried about it yet, but if it gets to a point where our opponent starts putting out some very dangerous stuff, we will worry about it. Now we could put out Black Heron here, and I'm really tempted to do so. So we're going to ink the new Whisper Jasmine, because I don't think we're going to need her this early on. And we're going to play Black Heron. And as much as we can pay 1, we actually can't, because we don't have the ink to do so, and we're okay to do it. The reason why I really like Black Heron, she's a 2-drop 3/3, and she's now actually becoming quite relevant in a lot of steel decks, just because Her attack values are brilliant. I love her being a 3/3. Yo, Xanatos comes in. So you discarded Francine, dealt 2 damage to Black Heron, but that's fine. We can always trade Black Heron with Pluto, so then they just have Xanatos out on board. And we can always even play a character, and if we have one left, Robot Queen into Xanatos, which might be a plan if we want to, because we don't exactly have any of our high ramping options, apart from Scuttle, and I think Scuttle's just a little bit of a ways out still, but yet again, we can maybe take advantage of what we want to do. Let's ink the Nick Wild. Kinda tempted to bring in our own Pluto, so then we have the one left. We can Robot Queen into Xanatos, exchange with Pluto, which is actually quite a nice plan. So let's do that. Play our Pluto, pay 1, banish the Robot Queen, hit David Xanatos is gone, and then we'll challenge with Black Heron into their Pluto. And now what this means moving into our next turn, we can use Pluto's Exert effect, where if we have a detective character in play, which we will do because we're planning on playing the 4-drop Judy Hopps next turn, which will then also help us search for more detectives, we can then get an item card from our discard back into our hand, which will be the Robot Queen. So there's a nice little bit of synergy there between the Pluto. And I think the Pluto in a detective deck is actually quite nice. So they play out their Jasmine. We're not too worried about her. She mostly focuses on healing. She does have a big body, being a 2/5, and she does quest for 2, which is something to be concerned about. But we've had control of the board so far. We're not doing too bad. There's Francine. Francine's a fantastic detective. 4/3, resist 1. So what I'm going to do, we're actually going to ink the 3-drop Judy Hopps, because we don't have an item in play, and we'll play the 4-drop Judy Hopps. That'll then trigger her effect. Search for top. We did not get a detective. Youch. But that's fine. We'll just put them on the bottom in any order. We use the ability of Pluto. We'll get back the Robot Queen. Even if we don't put out the Robot Queen again, we at least have her in our hands. She could be a valuable ink for us to use. We can even potentially ink Zootopia next turn. We'll see what happens. Okay, so Pluto's gone. But we have dealt 2 damage over to the Jasmine, which is something. Is Jasmine going to boost? No, because there is no ink. But Scuttle is out. Big out there, Scuttle before us. There's a Henwin's Vision, if we do want to sort out our top deck, which we're not too worried about. So let's ink Henwin. I want to quest with Judy Hopps preferably, and I think we will. Let's quest with Judy before we do anything else, which means we trigger Judy's effect. Look at the top 3. Now we have a couple of detectives to work with. We have the Basil or we have the Mini. Mini gives alert, which we're not too worried about. But Basil gets resist +1 to the start of our next turn whenever we play another detective character. So we're actually going to go with the Basil. When we have that Basil, it's best to play him as soon as. So what we'll do, we'll actually think about it here. No, let's not worry about it. Let's play out Basil. When we play out Basil, we'll also play out the Robot Queen, and we'll also play out our copy of Zootopia. The reason why we do that, we now swarm our board with a bunch of bits, so now we have ways to deal damage. We have a location where we'll get 1 lore passively, and we can draw and discard cards to help with our hand size. We've got tech that can really help us out. Scuttle will trade with Judy, stopping our plans where they stand. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm not worried about that at all. They get out their Nick Wild. The only detective they have is the Nick Wild, which is not a big concern. We now have Boost Zeus, which is interesting. I'm better off playing Francine this turn. As much as I like Boost Zeus, as much as I like Scuttle. Because if I play out Francine, Francine has resist +1, and that can just help us out. Plus Basil will get resist +1, and we can start taking advantage of that to control this board a little bit as well. Because if we have resist +1, we can knock out the Jasmine. Scuttle can potentially trade with Basil, and that's fine. Maybe even Nick can trade out with Basil. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. We can even Robot Queen into Nick Wild. And then that makes it so that if Nick does trade into us and they draw a card, but it's a minus for them, because they lose Nick Wild, so that could be beneficial. Let's do that. So we'll gain resist, we will pay the 1, and when we pay the 1, we'll deal the damage over to Nick, so that if he dares to challenge into us, we're all ready to go for next turn. I think we actually ink Boost Zeus, just so we have that little bit of ink ready for next turn. Let's draw and discard a card, we draw into another Zootopia, and you know what, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. We'll play out another Zootopia so we can swarm the board a little bit more. And because it's whenever we move a character in here and it's only a once per turn, that's fine. Basil's done his bit. I think what we do, we get rid of their Jasmine so they can't quest for a big amount. It does stop us from having a big quester, but we're controlling the board right now. And with 2 Zootopias out, we've got quite a lot of control we can manage. Oh, look at that. Scuttle's going to go for a quest. Is Nick going to trade with Basil? Yes. So Nick fell for the trap. Trades with Basil. They only get a single card draw. And I know they have the hand size advantage. But we just need to be careful. Whatever we do not move into Zootopia now. And they've played out 2 detectives, which is a little bit scary for us. But Francine is a real big gal. So Francine will probably just have to trade with Scuttle to get Scuttle out of the way. And we have Nick. Okay. We might as well just play out our Nick Wilds so we can get another character out on board. We will happily Francine into Scuttle just to get Scuttle out of the way. Stops them from questing for 2, which is a bonus at least. And that's all fine. So they can quest for 3 still. Daisy also has support. But they're not worrying about that. They're just going for a big quest, which is absolutely fine. So next turn we go up to 5, 6, 7 ourselves because of Zootopia and Nick. We are behind, but we have our own methods. We're staying in there. We actually get our Clawhauser. Wow. This Clawhauser is pretty cool. So he is a 6 cost 5, 6 for 2 with Challenger 2, which makes him quite devastating. So what I'm going to do here is we'll actually quest with this Nick, go up to 7 and threaten, because technically they can outquest us, which is a problem for us, but at least if Clawhauser stays out that little bit longer, we should be able to deal with Basil, because I feel Basil's the bigger threat right now, and Francine can be a threat, but she's not too big. Yeah, she's going to start getting rid of our Zootopias, but it stops them from questing, so they've obviously taken the option to go for that. There's Anna for some more support. Yeah, our opponent's definitely in front of us, but you can definitely see where this deck excels. It definitely has a lot of big power plays, a lot of great potential. I'm actually going to go into Francine just because Francine's the big threat but can immediately get rid of Zootopia, and I want her out of the way. It does mean Clawhauser can be wiped as of next turn, but remember, our opponent doesn't have their Shift Nick Wild anymore. So without that Nick Wild, their draw game is just as bad as ours, and we're very much top decking to see who has the advantage here. We have Black Heron going into next turn, and I think Black Heron will probably trade out with this big 4-3 Anna, which is scary by the way. This 4-3 Anna with support is actually killer. Consider putting her in a Sapphire Amber Princess deck if you're ever interested. And we get our Mickey Mouse. Yo, we might as well play out the Mickey. Top deck into our Inkwell, why not? Get a little bit more. And we still need to manage this board. We are way behind. Way behind. But yet again, this is the flaw you're going to have with some of these player decks. They're very playable. Like I said, I think this is a very playable deck right out off the bat. But with the lack of card draw options, don't be surprised if you get to a stage where you are top decking for the game, because it can get very tough very quick to get anything done. But yeah, our opponent basically win this, but you get a good gist of how well this deck plays. It's very nicely constructed. I really like how it plays out. If you definitely get better cards than I do. That shows a little bit of gameplay. Let's get back to the drawing board and see what we can do to help this deck bolster forward. Alrighty, so after some testing, we had a quick play about, and if I dare say so myself, fantastic deck. Great value, highly recommend getting this if you want to start playing the game. However, now we want to make it better. We want to make it a little bit more competitive, a little bit more consistent, especially with drawing those cards. Because if you have a look at the deck, as much as we love this 4-drop Judy, you only get 1 in the entire deck. So if you want a full copy of 4, you've either got to get 4 copies of this, which can be a little bit pricey, or you have to be very lucky with your singles pulls if you're just pulling with packs. So here's what I recommend if you just want to start with this deck and bolster it to something better. I give you Sapphire Steel Detectives. My take on things, still very much keeping with the theme of the player deck, keeping it quite heavily mid-ranged, but we've added in a bunch of stuff here and refined a bunch of stuff to make it streamlined towards our detective game plan. So as you can see, we've added in the 1-drop Detective Basil with support. We've fully bolstered up our Nyx to 4 copies as well, so our bottom line is sorted out that way. We've got our Daisy Duck, Ghost Finder, and our T-Pose on the 2 drops, so we have a detective we can find through Judy, as well as a little bit of ramp with T-Po. Only 2 copies, because we don't need to ramp with him too much, because we also have the Mickey Mouse 3-drop detective, uninkable. That's also going to be another detective we can get out. We also have our 4-drop Basil, because I really like this Basil. Even if you have nothing to tackle into, being able to quest for 2 on a 3-2 that can just gain resist, pretty darn nice for the deck. Obviously, we bolstered up the 4-drop Judy all the way up to 4 copies. She is a mainstay in this deck, and I highly recommend her. We love Pluto, but instead of running the 2-drop Pluto, we're running the 4-drop one, just so we have a really solid bodyguard that we can keep out and keep our guys protected. We're also running the 5-drop Donald Duck Focus Flatfoot, because he's also a detective. He's a 3-4 detective with quest for 2, so even if we get our big Judy Hops out, big Judy Hops will then give him resist 2 and alert. This Donald Duck can do some tackling. We also bolstered up our Nick Wilds up to 3 copies. We don't want to blow out our uninkables too much, because we wanted to add more uninkables into our song line. But by adding in more Nicks here, we have a higher chance of being able to draw our cards when tackling with our detectives, which is a very good thing. We've also got 4 copies of the brand new Daisy Duck Paranormal Investigator. She counts as a detective. It's a shift 4 onto our other Daisy. She's got support, so quest for 2, and she has strange happenings. While this counter is exerted, cards enter opponent's inkwell exerted. So if they're still trying to bolster up their inkwell, it comes in exerted, so they can't use it straight away. If we can get her up to that as soon as we can, that's brilliant. But if not, she is a 4-6 detective, but searchable and quest for 2 and has support. That is an amazing set of skills, and I really like this Daisy. We've also got 2 copies of the Judy Hops Lead Detective Shift 4. We're only running 2 copies because we only have 1 Judy Hops we can shift on. We don't want to see her all the time, so we don't want to blow out our consistency. And we also have Hades on our very big top end, because quite frankly, when you need to wipe the board or get rid of a big threat, Hades is our boy in Sapphire. We've also changed it up with the actions. So now in our actions, we've only got 4, and that's 4 copies of Sail the Azurite Sea, a little bit of card draw, a little bit of extra ramp, a little bit of goodness. As for our songs, we've bolstered up the songs a little bit more. And right now, we've got 4 copies of I'm Still Here, so we can put resist on our characters early on, and be able to draw a card as well. We've also got One Last Hope. A bunch of our detectives are heroes, and because we are also running with Judy Hops, if we have Judy Hops out, and then we can sing One Last Hope on any of our guys, now, not just do they get resist +4 potentially, if they're a detective, we can also attack a ready character this turn. We're also running 4 copies of Strength of the Raging Fire, which quite frankly, if we just have a decent board, we can just start dealing damage and wiping things out. And 2 copies of He Held His Thunderbolts. This is a fantastic piece of removal in steel. Highly recommend putting anywhere between 2 to 4 in the deck if you want. If you wanted to and you want to try this deck at home, you could consider putting He Held His Thunderbolt up to 3 or 4 if you're happy with a little bit more of the uninkables. But I think 2 is a really nice spot. Don't want to see it all the time, but just in case we can't remove a pesky threat, at least Zeus comes in and hurls a Thunderbolt straight up their butts. So I like what I did with my upgrades, but let's see how it plays out in our next deck test. Let's get straight in. Okay, so we didn't do well last time. The AI really knocked us up a notch, but maybe this time round with our updated deck will do quite well. That is a brilliant starting line. Don't like the idea of having 2 strengths though, so I'm actually going to mulligan both my strengths of the Raging Fire, and that's amazing. Look at that starting line we have. Basil, we have our Shift Nick, we have our Daisy. We have a brilliant lineup here to get some really crazy stuff going. Opponent starts with a Nick Wild. We even get our Hades, which is brilliant as well. I think to start our turn, we're not too worried about the Basil this early on, so let's ink him and go straight into our Nick, so we can shift into Big Nick a little bit later on. In fact, this time around we'll actually ink Daisy, because what we want to do, we want to play out Tipo, and I'll explain why. We want to play out Tipo because we're a little bit of a ways off from being able to play this Hades. So I'm going to put one of the Hades in the Inkwell face down so we've got a little bit of ramp, which means next turn we can play, if we wanted to, the 4-drop Judy and set things up even more, which means the turn afterwards we can then bring out the Nick Wild. We're not too desperate for this Nick very early on. Like I'm saying, this early, we're more so worried about establishing the board state, and then once we have our board state, we'll be happy to start swinging in, clear board, and start questing for really big amounts. So instead of playing Judy, I'm actually going to ink her. And this now gives us the chance to play out our 1-drop Basil. And now that we have 3 characters out, we can now play Strength of the Raging Fire and get rid of this Minnie Mouse, meaning that she's out of the way. So let's do it right now. Strength of the Raging Fire will shoot down the Daisy. I don't know why I want to call Minnie Daisy, I'm so sorry. Get rid of the Minnie. We're not going to swing into Nick Wild or Zootopia yet, there's no point. We're going to pass turn. The good thing is, next turn, we can always quest with Basil, support Tipo, and Tipo swings for free into anything on the board. So I might just do that to get Tipo to trade with this Nick, so that Nick's out of the way, and we can start doing some major things. They get their Castle Wyvern. Castle Wyvern's interesting. So characters gain challenge +1 and resist +1 while they're here. That's a very dangerous location that we need to be conscious of. But look at our state in our hand now. We do have access to our big Nick and another little Nick. So I do want to ink this turn though. So I'm going to ink my Nick, go to 5. This does mean I'm only ever going to be able to play either the Mickey or the Nick Wild, but I think it is time to play our big Nick Wild. So we're all good to go here. Now, do I want to take my Nick Wild into their Nick Wild to draw a card? I think so, because we want to benefit from that so we can start drawing cards and hopefully bolstering our game plan. Maybe we get a 2-drop. Maybe. Sadly we don't, but we do get the big Daisy for next turn. If we can get her out next turn, that's another detective. That's a really big character to have out and a really big help. So what else I'm going to do here? We are going to quest for Basil, start getting our lore total up. Support, going to put support onto Tipo. Tipo is going to challenge into Zootopia, at least deal 3 damage to it, so it begins. We could probably go after Castle Wyvern, but depending on what our opponent does on their turn, and dependent on what our board state is like, will depend on what threat we get rid of first. Okay, they kind of went for the bait. They went for Tipo instead of Basil, which means we can take advantage of Basil next turn, even bolstering up Nick Wild if need be, and we can immediately get rid of Castle Wyvern if we so wanted, or we could just tackle into Daisy and get another card draw out of that deal if we wanted to as well. There's Sail the Azurite Sea. Interesting. Very interesting. I think what I'll do actually, I'm actually going to ink Sail because I'm okay with it, and we're going to play out Big Daisy Ducks. We now have a big threat out on the board ready to help us out with some big action. And what we're going to do as well, I'm not going to quest with Basil. Instead, I'm actually going to challenge with Basil into Zootopia. We get Zootopia out of the way. They can't recycle cards anymore. That's one of their passive lore for turn out of the way. And then with this Nick, as much as it took a while to get him out, we will trade with their Daisy because I don't want them to get their Shift Daisy in their hand and do some shenanigans. And we're going to do that. We'll be able to draw a card still, and we actually draw into I'm Still Here, which can be very handy for next turn with our own Daisy Duck, so we can start questing and getting resist. We can even put out our own Mickey Mouse as well, just for that little extra bit of ramp. And that then means we're ready for Hades. So Judy now trades with Basil. I'm not too worried about that. That's absolutely fine. They have a bodyguard out in the form of the Headless Horseman. And we now have a second copy of I'm Still Here. So best thing to do here, I think we bolster up our board, get an extra bit of ink in there so we're ready for Hades. And why not? Let's play I'm Still Here. And we'll put a copy of I'm Still Here onto our Daisy, draw a card, and look! Now we have Judy Hopps ready for next turn. That's perfect, actually. So we could do 4 damage into Castle Wyvern, we could do 4 damage into Judy, only take 2, and that resist also carries across to our turn as well. Oh, we wouldn't be able to do that because of the Headless Horseman. So that's a bit of a dangerous move. What I'm going to do instead, we're just going to quest. We're going to quest, we're going to start gathering a little bit more. Good thing is we can start supporting our Mickey Mouse here. So if we did that, Mickey could actually be the one to get rid of their Headless Horseman next turn, which is a better plan. I'm kind of hoping we also draw into our Hades. It looks as if our opponent has shafted out their own Inkwell. That kind of sucks. That stops one of my characters from being able to challenge next turn. I wonder who they picked on. They've decided to move both characters into Castle Wyvern, which is a shame for them. I think that means they have screwed themselves over a bit. We actually got He Hurled His Thunderbolt. We'll actually play I'm Still Here. And when we do, we'll give Mickey the resist, draw a card, we draw into Big Judy, which is huge for us, and actually, we'll do one better. We'll actually play He Hurled His Thunderbolt. And we'll play He Hurled His Thunderbolt, get rid of a Headless Horseman. Oh, it's only 3? There's only 3. Do you have resist? It has... Oh.
You're dumb, you're all dumb!
Don't be me, folks. Don't be me, don't misplay, read the cards. But that's fine, we can still get rid of a Headless Horseman. We've still got that established. I'm not going to ink this turn because I like both cards I've got in my hand. We want to make sure we can establish some stuff going into next turn. This Judy's now a pain. Castle Wyvern's now starting to be a really big problem, and I'm probably going to have to take it out this following turn. Unless we get our Hades on the 7th. Right, play out Hades. We're going to get rid... Who is the most pesky boy? I think out of the two, I think I'm more worried about... Well, Judy's a 4-3. Well, that gives him Challenger 1, so... You're gonna tackle for 5, you only tackle for 4. I think I'm happier for you to tackle into 4. Oh, you only have 2 willpower with resist anyway. Yeah, we get rid of it, Judy. We'll just get rid of them. We'll quest for an extra 2. We'll go to 7. It's a bit slow. I know I'm playing a little bit silly in places, but hey ho. We're seeing how things go. We're testing things out. I'm gonna misplay. It's just what happens. I'm human. Deal with it. But at least we've traded. We've got Hades out. We still need to deal with Castle Wyvern. Castle Wyvern's now starting to be a pesky problem for us, which is another reason why that location is actually quite good, and I recommend it. Especially if you're more interested in this over Seven Dwarves Mine, and I think this is a perfectly good option over Mine. Just bear in mind, Seven Dwarves Mine, it costs 1 more to travel to, but you have 6 willpower. This does have 1 willpower less, but in my opinion has the better, more straightforward effect and the cheaper cost to move to. Right, I think we actually play out our mini Judy. We search our top 3. We actually get the Basil. That's kind of brilliant. And we also get our big shiftable Daisy. Ooh. Who am I more focused on? I think we get Big Daisy, because if we get the Daisy, we then play the Daisy. We now have a nice little board here, and that means we can shift for 4, 8. So if I have 1 Inkable next turn, we can shift both Judy Hops and Daisy, and then we have 2 really nice big cards that could just start going in and causing some mess. What I'll do in the meantime, we'll just quest with Hades for 2, go up to 9, we'll be able to chase easy. We'll be able to catch up very easy. And when we do, we're going to kick some butt. That's fine. Castle Wyvern only gives you 5. Do you have a way to get rid of Hades in your hand? No, there's Zootopia. That's okay. You're going to move into Zootopia but not use the effect. That actually is silly of you, because now we can get rid of a Headless Horseman without having to worry about resist, which is kind of cool. That is another sail the Azurite Sea, but guess what? I'm going to sail to victory instead. Let's bolster our boys. We're going to get Big Judy and Big Daisy out on board, so we have some real nice plays going on. And the great thing here is I'm just going to do a mass amount of trading. So we're just going to trade Hades into the Headless Horseman, so Headless Horseman is out of the way. And because of who we have out on board, Daisy's going to take out Zootopia. So then Zootopia's out of the way with the exact damage we needed. And Big Judy is going to take out Castle Wyvern with her 6 attack. Now we have nothing to worry about. We're both top decking, but we now have the superior board state. And we quest for 4 every turn. They're top decking and they top decking with Mickey. That Mickey Mouse is not going to do anything. We are in a very safe spot right now to catch up. And if we wanted to, and in fairness I'm going to, we're going to play I'm Still Here. And we're going to put I'm Still Here on our Judy. So that Judy has a little bit of resist. And we actually get into our 4-drop Judy, which is perfect. So then we have a bit of card draw. We find all the detectives we need. And we're going to get another big Daisy Duck ready for next turn to help with our endgame. So let's quest for big. So we go for 11. We go for 13. This also means we can bolster up this Judy Hops if we do want to swing into Mickey Mouse next turn. Control the board even more. This is beautiful. Again, going for the late game with the deck I've built is not an issue. We have ways to control once we can establish board state. We ramped up that a little bit faster than our opponent. They do have a genie, and that is a very big stat block genie that you would be scared of. But I'm not too worried about it. Instead, we're going to bolster our board. Let's just play out this big Daisy, and you know what? We're just going to play out Tipo and not use his effect because we don't have anything in our hand anyway. So what do we do in a situation like this? Well, I tell you, we're going to quest with this Judy. And when we quest with this Judy, we're going to find the top 3. Do we find a detective? Yes, we do. It's Donald Duck. Fantastic. Get Donald into our hand. 2 at the bottom. It's okay. Then I reckon we just quest with everybody because I'm really not worried about anything on their side of the board. Go for the quest. Go to 16. Go to 18. We win next turn. They can't win next turn. So let's see what our opponent does. Next turn, we have the guaranteed win. They can only go up to, 17, 18 with Genie. Genie's actually going to trade with Judy Hops. Only take 6. That's perfectly okay. Not a big problem. And then there's Jasmine. They can boost Jasmine in order to heal up Genie. Will you do it? Yes, you will. Oh, did you not? Is it only on you? If there's a card under her, remove up to 3 damage from each of your characters. Why didn't you do it? You boosted and didn't remove the damage.
Idiot!
There were some cheeky choices that are made by AI opponents. I'm not the only one that misplays. I'm the human. But who cares? We've done it. It's all over. Big questy LaRue. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is at least my take on a Sapphire Steel detective deck using the detectives we get in this deck as a base, so that you at home can go out there, have some fun, and hopefully make your deck that little bit better. Just look at all the fun times going on here. The good thing is as well, it's not too much of a budget increase either. The cards are quite reliably easy to get a hold of, so you should be okay, and that was a very fun game. If you're interested in the deck yourself and you want to try it out for yourself, I'm going to have the deck list over on my Discord server, and be sure to join the Discord server as I will be starting up my own internet-based locals in the future. So if you do not have a locals close to yours, or if you just want to play with new people when you can hop on over to the Discord server, check out our decks, join in on the tournaments, or just join in for the vibes. It's all there for everybody. Thank you again to Ravensburger for sending me the player deck, which you can get a hold of today for your entertainment. If I haven't sold it to you, I will say it again. I highly recommend this player deck if you want to get started with the game, especially get started with Whispers in the Well, because this has some very, very good cards. Even the updated deck that I made isn't necessarily the very best deck that you can take. There's some variants you can put. I would even consider putting Francine in here into my version of the deck, because Francine's a really good card. There are some other additions you can make as well and changes you can make, but this should give you a good starting block to take this bad boy and make it even better. With that being said, have you taken this deck and already made your version of it? That is so sweet. We can compare deck lists down below in the comments in the Discord server on my other social links that you can join up with today for some more explosive action. But until next time, folks, where we cover another one of the player decks or another one of your decks on XMarksTheLore, which you can totally do by sending your decks to xmarksTheLore@gmail.com. That is xmarksTheLore@gmail.com. Send in your deck list, send in your philosophies, your videos, your voice notes, and you could feature in one of these videos in the future as well. Until next time, I will see you out there on the Azurite Sea for some more Lorcana action. Set sail, weigh anchor. I'll be seeing you next time. Ha ha! Good times.